Nowadays, it's literally impossible to talk about agriculture and food, and especially since we've just talked about indigenous foods, right? We have to talk about climate change. It's even nowadays, I think we have a ministry that is maybe a department that is dedicated to climate change, and sometimes some people believe in it, some don't. But I think one thing we can agree on. Personally, I see in terms of the solutions that are being offered, don't kind of make sense. And one of those solutions is carbon farming or carbon trading. So I'm not sure if you come across such a solutions yet.
I think I have. I even wrote an article, I think, was it last year, about carbon markets.
What is
because it was being fronted very much during the Africa Climate Summit that we had last year in Kenya. I think for me, carbon markets, I don't see them as a solution to climate change. Someone else might be of a different opinion. Of course, divergent opinions are always welcome. But carbon markets for me is a way of, the proponents of them exploiting communities. Exploiting communities and having access to our resources and land, to be specific. Because when you look at carbon markets, they're talking of, planting trees in Kenya, and then a company that is based somewhere in the US or somewhere in Europe, pays for those trees in the form of, reducing their carbon footprints. Yeah. And that money never reaches the communities. I mean, we've seen scandals with Vera, We've seen scandals with the Kasigao project. I think is it in Savo, that region around there. We've seen scandals with that. We've also seen. I've been in conversations with farmers where they spoke of some of these projects, like the carbon projects, that have not benefited them. Like the money has been disbursed, but the farmers have not seen that money. But yet here they are planting trees and all that, and hoping that they can get that money. So to me, carbon credits it's a fallacy. I like to call it wash. It's like, we're just making some quick money, but how that money is being utilized, we really don't know.
Yeah.
When it comes to climate change, I think smallholder farmers have a critical role to play on that. First of all, our weather patterns are varying, That's just the reality. The rainfall patterns have changed, Before then, we used to know between March and May we have the long rains, but sometimes it gets to March and there's no sight of rain. And September and I think September all the way till November, the short rains.
Yeah.
But sometimes that changes too. So I think smallholder farmers have a bigger role to play in this. First of all, because they work with the soil. And soil is one of the largest sequesters of carbon.
Yeah.
And so investing in small-scale farmers not only makes sure that we have food as a country, but then we are also limiting our emissions, And specifically when it comes to also the use of chemical fertilizers. Chemical fertilizers are from fossil fuels, the nitrogen fertilizers. So we are limiting our emissions. So if we are working with small-scale farmers, let's say to produce food in an agroecological way, let's say, they're not using chemical fertilizers, chemical pesticides, and so forth. And they're also incorporating trees on their farms. Then we are helping these farmers, sort of adapt to the changing, climatic conditions. And I think also the use of indigenous seeds that are acclimatized to their local, climatic patterns. So that also helps with the small-scale farmers. And that's why I think they have a bigger role to play when it comes to climate change and their adaptation to it, and which is why I always front solutions that are actually workable. Like I actually saw during the climate summit last year that, the President Ruto was actually, using an electric car. It was a very tiny car.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You and I are Africans, eh? And we know what happens to powerful people in government. So I saw him moving around with that small vehicle, and they're saying, the way electric vehicles are the future, they're going to help.
Yeah.
They're going to help when it comes to mitigation or reduction of the greenhouse gas emissions, right?
Yeah.
But how long did that last?
For the photo shoot, I guess.
Yeah. Immediately the summit was over, he went
Yeah.
back to his guzzlers, the
Yeah.
fuel guzzlers.
Yeah.
So for me, some of the solutions that are actually fronted, I see them as the things done to tick boxes, like carbon markets, the electric vehicles. Those are things that I see as, ways of just ticking boxes, like, okay, let's do this. This is a solution. Let's do this. But it's not properly thought out. One thing that I would advocate for, like when it comes to emission of like fossil fuels, for example, aside from agriculture, working with farmers to reduce their usage of chemical fertilizers and the pesticides, and the use of local resources like the seeds on farm, and also reduction of the transport, like food transport, food mileage.
Yeah.
Like if you go to a supermarket today, we have coconut oil from Thailand. And you're asking yourself, just Kilifi, down at the coast.
Yeah.
You mean we can't produce coconuts that can be able to give us coconut oil? Do we have to import, coconut oil all the way from Thailand? So I think having processing facilities in our country,
Yeah.
drying facilities in our countries, that then enables farmer to process food. So that also mitigates or reduces, emissions. The other thing I see is in regards to transport again.
Yeah.
So transport, meaning when you look at our roads, you schooled in Netherlands.
Yeah.
I've been to Netherlands, and there's an option for you to cycle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In our African society, we used to cycle or walk, right?
Yes.
But right now, the way our roads are constructed, there's no room for us to walk. We don't even have a proper railway transport.
Yeah.
I mean, if we are looking at reducing our emissions as a country, there are some of the practical things that we can do. And for me, those tiny electric cars that the president was riding in, for me, it's a fallacy.
Yeah.
We have the real solutions that we need to do. We have to plant trees, reforest our forests, And we're not reforesting them by evicting communities. We're actually working with the communities to do this. And we're not taking care of our forests so that some company based in the UAE can actually come and buy carbon credits. So we're not doing that. We're doing it for our communities. We're doing it for us. This is something that works for us as a country.
Yeah.
So for me, when it comes to climate change, I like to be realistic. What can work? And coming from an agricultural background, what can work for the small scale farmers? What can work for the communities? That's how I look at climate change and any adaptation measures that is related to that.
Yeah, and I think that's the correct way to look at it. I mean, how can it benefit us as Kenyans, right? That has to be like the front of our discussions. And let me just add something before you continue. I think we've had flooding in Kenya, right? And then we see our president in a small car. We've had flooding in Kenya, a small electric car. He's saying, Kenya is moving towards, emissions, reducing our emissions. We've had flooding in Kenya, which is beyond the norm that, we're used to, yeah? Yeah.
But we don't have infrastructure. Yet we have a disaster management unit.
Yes.
And this disaster management unit is supposed to make sure that we have infrastructure that cushions Kenyans against the impacts of extreme weather events like floods, like drought. We've seen
have a budget, huh?
They have a budget. There's money, actually taxpayers' money.
Exactly.
They have a budget.
Yeah.
So you're wondering, why can't we put in place the infrastructure first? We keep talking about food insecurity. This is a phenomenon that has been happening. Drought has been happening. I think since I was born, I've been hearing about droughts and, But why can't we use some of this money to put in place infrastructure that will reduce the risk of communities to this effects?
Yeah.
Why are we not doing that? But we are quick to go for this UN event, and I'm not castigating the UN events and all those things. I'm not against them. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, can we have feasible solutions to this? Like a solution that a community deep down in a rural area in Nairobi, in Kenya, will actually relate to it. Because if you tell a community, okay, a rural community, okay, we have carbon markets, they're looking at you like, first of all, what is carbon markets? Or we have electric cars, they're like, okay, electric cars. Those electric cars, somebody will, we don't even have electricity, we don't have electricity. So you're telling us about electric cars. What do you mean? Or someone can actually start to scrutinize the electric cars and say, okay, the electric cars, where is that electricity coming from? Is it from fossil fuels?
Yeah.
So how is this a cleaner version of the cars that we actually have? So for me, I'm not against any of the technologies, but let the technologies we propose when it comes to climate adaptation and mitigation be relevant and feasible for the local communities.
Yeah.
Let us just not write down solutions and think, okay, this is gonna work for community in Kenya or in Uganda. No one size fits all. Like the context is different. So let us approach climate change in that manner. Like this is what can work for the Kenyan communities in terms of adapting to climate change. Let us make sure that they have the infrastructure, they have the resources they need to be able to adapt to this.